Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Oh man, Jacob. It's Monday. Woo! It's Monday. This is the day, the big show after the day after Valentine's Day, which it's just a holiday that I don't celebrate because reasons. You know, it's always great to see these, governmental agencies, these bureaus of investigations or whatever's, post nice little memes on the Twitters and on the Facebooks and on the Instagrams about how it's a Valentine's Day. Spend time with your loved ones, even though they're the ones literally keeping you forced inside your homes in certain states. Check your local, listings and laws. But it's always great. It's always great to see the ATF from the entire. This is from the ATF headquarters on the Twitter. From the entire ATF family, we wish you and your loved ones a safe and happy Valentine's Day. To which they most righteously got ratioed by folks on Twitter posting pictures of Waco. And I saw one that was like, don't you wish Randy and Vicky Weaver could have been together today on this holy of holies?
The top
Valentine's
comment
Day.
Is the picture of the building on fire. And it says, you set my heart on fire.
Oh, there's also some other good ones of I don't know if it was the FBI, ATF, Delta Force, whomever. After the initial raid and after they burned the sucker down, there were pictures of these military guys in fatigues, literally posing with burnt bodies on this, and they always like to tag that in there on these holies of St. Valentine's Days. It's also today's President's Day. Woo! I think my favorite meme that I have seen so far, President's Day, it's Mount Rushmore, and it's and they all have the makeup of Kiss on their faces, and I think it's George Washington is Gene Simmons. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's pretty cool. It is President's Day. Speaking of President's Day, I thought we might talk about the President's Day just for a moment. Don't show me that. Don't show me that.
Anyways, don't set the fire.
It's David Koresh, or Vernon Howell, as he's known. Don't show me that either. Okay, yeah, that's enough of that. I love these Waco memes.
They're all good.
Anyway, so it's President's Day. This is the day that we immortalize the former and present leaders of our great nation. We elevate them to this idolatrous status of immortality, of sainthood, of higher than the Pope, bigger than the papacy, Jacob.
Some people do.
It's very, very prevalent in the left progressive crowd, the way they hold up FDR and where they hold up like FDR, not so much Wilson, not so much Lyndon Johnson, but like JFK, Theodore Roosevelt, and the right the same way they might push up Reagan or Lincoln or other people like that. I take a different position, and this is a position I've been more moving towards in the last, couple of years. And that position is just abolish the whole thing. I think it's kind of sick and twisted that I don't understand why this is, but why is it in any society? And this is not just America. This exists worldwide. But why is it we idolatrize politicians? Why is it we elevate these people to this status of, they're the holier than thou? They sit on the throne and they judge us. No one's above the law. They are the arbiters of civilization, of peace, of stability. Without them, who would build the roads? Because we are so weak-minded, we are so insignificant, we can't even pave roads without the immortal leaders sitting in Washington, D.C., without our governors, without our senators, without our state representatives. We would be nothing without them. So as I'm perusing through the internet looking for things to talk about, I knew I wanted to talk about the presidents. I came across this article on the Mises Institute by Lou Rockwell, which we will put in the show notes because it's a longer piece, but I think everyone should read it. So I'm a simple man. Anytime that Lou Rockwell writes a piece, I got to read it. I just have to. I just got to.
There are some people that are like that.
What?
There are some certain authors and certain journalists where you see a piece and you go and you're like, okay, I have to read what he has to say.
Yeah, like a Pat Buchanan. Like, I don't agree with Pat Buchanan almost very little, like 50-50, but I like to see what he writes. You with Glenn Greenwald or me with Jimmy Dore. It's like, I don't agree with anything that Jimmy says.
I get an email every time that Glenn writes an article. I get an email and I read it right away because I'm curious to see what he has to say about something.
Right. So the title of the article, and it's a longer piece, like I mentioned, it's called "Down with the Presidency." And I pretty much agree with everything that he says in this article, but this is kind of, I'm gonna read you like 2 paragraphs, and this kind of give you the gist of the whole deal here. The presidency, by which I mean the executive state, is the sum total of American tyranny. The other branches of government, including the presidential appointed Supreme Court, are mere adjournments. The presidency insists of a complete devotion to humble submission to its dictates, even while it steals the products of our labor and drives us in economic ruin. It centralizes all power unto itself and crowds out all competing centers of power in society, including the church, the family, the business, the charity, and the community. I'll go further. The U.S. presidency is the world's leading evil. It is the chief mischief maker in every part of the globe. The leading wrecker of nations, the usurper behind the third world debt, the bailer-outer of corrupt governments, the hand in many dictatorial gloves, the sponsor and sustainer of the new world order of wars, interstate and civil, of famine and disease. To see the evils caused by the presidency, look no further than Iraq or Syria, where the lives of innocents were snuffed out in pointless wars, where bombing was designed to destroy civilization infrastructure and cause disease, where women and children and the aged have been denied essential food and medicine because of cruel embargoes. Think of Yemen. It's exactly what's going on there. Look at the human toll taken by the presidency from Dresden and Hiroshima to Waco and Ruby Ridge. And you see a prime practitioner of murder by the government. Today, the presidency is called the leader of the world's only superpower, the world's indispensable nation, which is reason enough for him to be disposed. A world with any superpower at all is a world where no freedoms are safe. But invoking this title, the president attempts to keep our attention focused on foreign affairs. It is a tactic designed to keep us from noticing the oppressive rule it imposes right here in the United States. That's exactly true. Just weeks into Biden's administration, what do we hear? Iran is just days away from the nuclear bomb. Now, they've been days away from the bomb since, I don't know, like the late 80s.
It's coming, Joe. It's coming.
And then there's the constant shifting towards China. Now, everyone says that Biden's going to be, more pro-China. That, to me, remains to be seen. I think that, once again, the sides have changed. Once it was the right said that Russia was the evil. Now it's the left that says that Russia is evil. And you see the Biden administration starting to make a turn against Russia. There's already Biden, basically put the old kibosh on the Iraq or the Afghanistan peace talks with the Taliban. Now that the Taliban basically controls 52% of that nation, according to an article that I read on antiwar.com. And then there's the coronavirus. Cuomo came out today and said that Trump is the main reason why the vaccine rollout in New York was been botched. And even Biden said that we can't go back to school. His administration said, this is hilarious, that within the first 100 days he wants all schools reopened. And then his press secretary decided to circle back to that, and they said that we'll be happy if half the schools open at 1 day a week.
Buyer's remorse yet? Buyer's remorse?
Remember the whole $2,000 checks? It's going to be $1,400. Well, Joe, there's so much winning.
Well, Joe, the 2,000, what Biden said is that it was to make up for what Trump already passed.
That's right.
So it was a total of 2,000.
So we're saving money in the long run.
See? We're saving money.
And, what's interesting about it is that you look at the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Now, why you would try to impeach and remove a guy that's no longer in office still seems stupid. But it's an attempt by the Democrats and the Biden administration to try to do what they did with Richard Nixon. Joe, what did they do with Richard Nixon? Well, I'll tell you. The whole idea of going after Richard Nixon and going after the Watergate scandal and all of that was to demoralize the voters, because after Nixon won a huge landslide in his election. Not as large as Reagan's, but the biggest before Reagan. And you go and look at, trying to get people who admit who they voted for around the time of Watergate. No one wanted to say they voted for Nixon.
Oh, no.
No, I didn't know. I don't vote Nixon. I don't know why everyone's Mexican, but...
Oh, no.
But this is the larger the point that Jeff Dice made, and on the on a podcast that I was listening to. And I agree with Jeff's statement, but I think that what the Democrats have tried to do as far as getting to demoralize the Trump voters isn't going to work, because you saw what happened after the first impeachment. It only energized the base. And that's going to happen again with the second impeachment and the second acquittal. I think our mother sent us a meme. It was Trump calling Nancy Pelosi, and he said, "Hey Nancy, it's Owen." And she says, "Owen who?" And Trump says, Owen 2. Oh, I love it. I love it, because I think the Democrats fail to realize that not everyone sees the world that they do. I know, shocker. That should be news. That shouldn't be news to anybody, maybe except Democrats or the progressives. But it's not going to have the effect that people think it's going to have. There's numerous GOP senators that are under fire right now because of their support for the impeachment of Donnie. What was it? Mitch Romney, Richard Burr, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Ben Sasse, and then the good old Pat Toomey, all sided with Democrats to indict the president on the outrageous, the incitement of violence, the seditious acts of the January 6th storming of the Capitol, the fascist takeover of the government, Jacob. So many of them are getting a huge amount of backlash. It's so funny to see. This kind of ties back into what I opened with. It's so funny to see how these politicians try to, justify their vote or justify their position. Ben Sasse has repeated his warnings about Republican loyalty to Trump, and he said that politics is not about weird worship of one dude. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Whether it's Donald Trump, George Bush, Bill Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, that's what it's all about. That's why people vote. They don't vote for policy. They don't vote on principle. Hey, Donald Trump said that Marco Rubio had little hands.
And that Jeb was a low energy.
Low energy Jeb. Hillary Clinton is, she's the first strong female to get out there running for president. Bernie Sanders, he's the first guy to advocate on behalf of the working class.
Didn't Hillary Clinton go on to Ellen and say that she said something along the lines of, I know that being a woman is not a qualification or something like that, but I am a woman, so I think that's, a good qualification or something like that.
Yeah. That's all you need to know. And so it's all wrapped in identity politics, and it's all wrapped in the immortal man and or woman, in case if Hillary ever won. All of politics is wrapped into the worship of one person. And of course, I think Toomey said some pretty stupid stuff. He supported the president. He said, "I was one of the 74 million Americans that voted for President Trump, in part because of his many accomplishments of his administration. Unfortunately, his behavior after the election betrayed the confidence of the millions of us placed in him. His betrayal of the Constitution, his oath of office, require conviction." It requires conviction. His betrayal of the Constitution and his oath of office, Jacob, require conviction.
It does. It's bad.
Cassidy, in an interview on ABC, said, "Attempted to hold the president accountable. That's what we're doing, Jacob. Very confident that as time passes, people will move to that position. The Republican Party is more than just one person. The Republican Party is about ideas. We're fighting for the soul of the party, Jacob. We're fighting for the soul of America. We're bringing back the days of when you could respect the man in the White House. We're bringing back those days. Remember when we had, the 1,000 points of light?
That's right.
Remember when we fought wars to defend this country? Remember how you could trust the man in the White House? Remember you weren't worried about what he was doing during the off hours? You weren't worried about Bill Clinton sleeping around with interns? That's what we're going back to.
Back to that. The impeachment trial, I really didn't care up until the point of the acquittal, which was going to happen. That's why I didn't talk about it. That's why I didn't cover it. The front page of the New York Times and Wall Street Journal on a Saturday was that he was acquitted, and I was like, well, yeah, duh, I knew that. You don't need to tell me that. The reason why some of these Republicans are coming out so strong in this very strong language is I think that deep down inside they are afraid that he's going to run again in 2024. Now, as extremely unlikely as that is, I think that they're afraid that he is going to be the thorn in their side. He might lay low for a little bit because the whole impeachment thing, but prediction, I think he starts coming back. You start seeing him more and more. Maybe he goes on to Fox News or wherever. Newsmax will have him. And you're going to start seeing him come back, and he's going to be the thorn in the side, and that this was an opportunity for them to, from the point of the GOP who voted to convict him, was they are done with the Trumpism. They want to go back to the party of Bush and of Bush Classic, and then they want the whole neocon wing of the party. If you look at who voted to convict Trump, that's who was voting for him. And then for the Democrats, who knew from the very bottom of this, the very start of this thing, that they knew they were never going to convict him. It was never going to happen. There was no chance that they were going to convict him. Rand Paul's vote basically just killed it dead on arrival, just in that simple vote alone before the whole thing started. But this was an opportunity for them to just, the last airing of grievances, the last time they get to go over there and just trash the man and drag just get it all out. This was it. And they used the opportunity to, and there's a lot of they use a lot of doctored videos, and there's a lot of doctored tweets and screenshots. I think that Tim Pool did a great video about that. I can find it. I might link it down below. He talks about that. But a lot of dirty tactics, and this was their chance just go and just get it all out.
Yeah, they edited out in Trump's speech where he said we shall go peacefully and
cheer on.
And cheer on. They edited that part out.
Yeah.
And one of the main rallying cries around the whole impeachment was the death of that police officer. The New York Times had to retract their article about saying that he died because of the protesters. They still don't know why he died.
The coroner came out and said that there's no so the story is that the officer was
beaten to death
with a fire extinguisher, and the coroner came out and said that there's no sign of blunt trauma anywhere on him. So they still don't know why he passed away. There's some speculation that he had some underlying illnesses, or possibly it was one of those things like there's 7 deaths linked to it. The only one they can confirm so far that was directly responsible was the poor woman that got shot in the neck. The rest of them were, they had a heart attack or a stroke or something like that, and that they happened to be there, right? So they had basically, it felt like a funeral and a memorial for this police officer, which I'm not necessarily against per se, but it's the optics of it, right? All summer long, we were told that ACAB, all cops are, some B words, and well, now because he was defending the home or the house of our democracy, he has to be honored in like
he has to be given a Viking's funeral.
Yeah, exactly.
He has to go out like he would in Asgard. And it's so funny. Now, everyone says that the left and the progressive are anti-police. I completely disagree with that. I think they just latch on to things like, Black Lives Matter or defund the police when it's politically convenient, because that's what the Democrats are. They're just don't let a good tragedy go to waste. So the left progressives, they need police more than the right does, because someone has to actually enforce their COVID lockdowns, their mask mandates, their gun control, their abortion laws, so on and so forth. So they need them more than the right does. And I think that should be plainly obvious to see. But it's interesting that the fact that the left doesn't vocally support them, but financially they do support them. And even if you look at some of the defund tactics, it's just they're not so much trying to take money away from police departments. They're just redirecting it into other areas.
To other government social programs.
Yeah, so
that's all it is. It's still the same money. They're not gonna. It's not like they're saying, okay, well, we're cutting the police department by 50%, which means that now we're gonna tax you less money. They can keep whatever money we're gonna tax you in property or income in whatever state you live in. Well, to keep that money because we're not spending on police. No. They're gonna put that money somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not like they're gonna give everyone a tax credit.
That's right.
Based on that.
So you have to remember, when FDR interned the Japanese Americans Democratic president, when the ATF took out the Weavers, and when they took out Waco, Bill Clinton was in the White House. And Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were heavily involved in what was going on in Waco and Ruby Ridge and so forth. So they are very, very much pro-police. It may lean more towards federal policing, like the ATF, like the FBI, like the Bureau of whatever's. Maybe they just don't like local police as much because reasons. I think, and I don't know if I mentioned this already or not, but I think this is going to have the opposite effect as far as Trump voters go, because you tried to impeach the guy and convict him twice, and he won both times. So what does that say about you as a party trying to lead the charge against your opposition? The so-called fascist dictator, the white supremacist, the Nazi, rounding up people, putting them in cages, separating children from their families at the border. I mean,
which by the way, it's still happening.
Yeah, they threw literally everything at in the world at him. They threw the book at him numerous times. And he's Teflon Don, right? He's Joe Gotti. He's John Gotti, right? He's the old mafia boss. Nothing sticks to him. So everyone that knows Trump, that voted for Trump, that supported Trump is like, you know what? That's not going to change their position one iota. Not at all. It's not going to change anyone's position on him. Because they see him as a martyr. They have effectively created Trump as a martyr. And you know how martyrs get support. You know how that works, right, Democrats, right, progressive? You know how that works, right? Like you tried so hard making George Floyd a martyr, making Trayvon Martin a martyr. Didn't really work, did it? Now you do the same thing with Donnie. I got some bad news for you folks. It ain't gonna work out real good. Speaking of presidents that should be impeached, Jacob, let's shift into a little more of a conversation here, okay?
Okay.
I want you to see if you're feeling my vibrations here. I'm going to be all shaman on you here. All right. Give me some presidents that you think should have been impeached. I know we didn't talk about this earlier. I'm just going to throw a curveball at you.
43 of them should have been impeached.
43 of them?
I think that 42 of them should have been impeached. I think all of them should have been impeached except for Coolidge. If you're going to... Okay, the way you have to look at presidents, if you're going to look at things through our philosophy, is that you got to grade them on a curve.
Okay.
Because if you don't, then you're going to say, okay, they're all failures because they've all done things that violate the Constitution, natural rights, all that. They all have. By the existence of taxation, they've all violated some kind of natural right and should be prosecuted based on that. So you got to grade on a curve based on their like contemporaries, right? That's how you have to.
Okay.
Or else you're just gonna ran into some kind of autistic just screeching at each other. Coolidge, Jefferson, and Washington are probably the only ones who I would say are so redeemable in some kind of meaningful way.
Even the Whiskey Rebellion?
Well, he did step down.
Okay.
And he at the time Jefferson could have become king of America, and everyone would be like, okay, yeah, fine.
Washington, you mean?
Washington, yeah.
Yeah.
Washington could have become king of America, and everyone would be like, yeah, of course, yeah, Washington, yeah, that's fine.
Do it, bro.
Yeah, I mean, he had the military; they were all loyal to him. He had all of America loyal to him. He could have easily said, "Yeah, I'll be king of America, and I'll become King George II or whatever."
I can respect that.
So yeah, I think that obviously the Whiskey Rebellion was a horrible thing and terrible. But I think
even with that, I don't think he deserves all the blame for that, because the awful, terrible Madison. He's on the $10.
Hamilton?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Alexander Hamilton. He was really the one that kind of pushed him into sicking federal troops on everyday Americans because excise taxes. For me, I largely agree with you. My favorite president is William Henry Harrison, because he died less than 2 months into office.
He wasn't able to do anything.
Exactly.
See, that's a
joke. Okay, you can laugh. It's a joke.
I would say of the modern era, and when I mean modern era, I mean the post-Civil War. Probably it has to be Coolidge.
Yeah, I could agree with that. You sure
he's the only one?
You sure it's not LBJ? He was pretty cool.
No.
New Deal.
LBJ was in the New Deal. LBJ,
I'm sorry, the Great Society.
The Great Society, and the War on Poverty.
Mm-hmm. I think that was okay. I'm thinking of War on Cancer. That was
no, the War on Poverty, which poverty ended up winning.
Yeah, and my favorite line from the New Deal, FDR's deal, is the Square Deal.
Square Deal for all Americans.
That's right. It's a chicken in every pot, because why would people?
What if you don't like chicken?
What if you don't like? What if you're more of like a goose fan, or if you're more of a turkey?
What if you were a vegan? That's pretty inconsiderate.
That's very inconsiderate. Even back then, they weren't taking into fact the dietary differences of Americans back then.
Planning is there.
They just assumed everyone liked chicken.
That is what central planning is.
And
there
everyone
for.
Cooked it in a pot.
Yeah. What if I cook things in a skillet?
I'm gonna boil my chicken.
Fascists. No. So honestly, though. When you look at the worst ones, we have an entire episode.
Oh, yes. I went back and watched that. It was so bad.
Well, I mean, you can watch it, but, if you do, I'm going to apologize first in advance. Obviously, FDR and Woodrow Wilson are probably the most heinous of all of them. FDR, for those who don't know, I mean, the guy literally put Japanese Americans in internment camps based solely on their race.
Yes.
The entire New Deal, which prolonged the Great Depression for much longer than it needed to be, didn't allow the market to regulate properly. Woodrow Wilson, flaming racist, an unapologetic racist.
Resegregated the military.
Resegregated
the government.
Income tax, Federal Reserve. You could probably make an argument for.
But do you know who raised the first income tax?
Who raised it, or who
first?
Wasn't it Lincoln?
Yes,
Lincoln's the first one that started. Then got shot down to the Supreme Court.
There's your conservative hero, Republicans.
The Lincoln Project.
Speaking of the Lincoln Project.
No, so Lincoln was he was not good. That's why I find the Lincoln Project, not talk about Lincoln Project too much, but I find the Lincoln Project so funny that they for anyone who actually delves into Lincoln's motives and what he actually did, he's kind of I don't need putting him as the mascot of my super PAC when it comes to principles and freedoms. Yeah, I was like, ugh. But then again, I mean, the Lincoln Project is full of a bunch of neocons, and neocons like invading other nations. And Lincoln had no problem invading the South with Union troops, and the South said we're seceding, and Lincoln's like, oh, like heck you are. The South wanted to peacefully secede, which they have every right to do, in my opinion. And no, I'm not promoting slavery, and by saying that, obviously slavery should be. I don't. That goes without saying. But the fact that you're gonna just cause a civil war that caused the unnecessary deaths of hundreds of thousands, even though slavery was on the way out at that time.
It was between 600 and 900,000 Americans died
without any need. That could all be posed on Lincoln.
But he kept the Union together, Jacob.
But Lincoln came out and said, he said that, I'm going to paraphrase, I'm going to butcher it, but he said that if I could preserve the Union without ending slavery, I would, or something like that. It's a very, very direct quote where he was more concerned about the union, which, I mean, of course, whenever they think about the union, think about their own personal image of
their legacy.
Well, it's like with Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was so concerned about pursuing the union, he would do everything at cost to do that. You can look at the example of the South Carolina exposition and protest. That was his reaction to it. He's like, well, we have to preserve this union. We can't have South Carolina secede in this case. So,
what's the old saying? When you love something so much, sometimes you just have to let it go.
Just let it go.
When you feel the winds of change coming.
No, yeah, FDR and Woodrow Wilson are pretty good. Worst.
Yeah,
I would say they're easily. I mean, but then again, Bush killed 1 million people.
Right.
Obama killed 1 million people. So
it's
but without Wilson, without FDR, does the Federal Reserve and the income tax give Bush and Obama the ability to do what they do? And the answer is no. So I think that Wilson's worse.
There you go. I don't disagree with anything you said there. I think I think impeachment should be used more often, and not for stupid reasons like he incited violence.
Incited a riot.
Not for stupid reasons like that, but for actual reasons. But then again, you have to... hopefully the voters and your congressmen and senators would actually judge people on principle, not because he said mean tweets.
So you said something about President's Day, and you had your take. I agree with you at that. I don't think there's anything wrong with remembering our leaders, and I think that the idolization of them is creepy. I don't even have an issue with statues or memorials or monuments to them per se.
That's not really what I'm talking about.
No, but I get. What I'm saying is that I think the idolization and the worship of them is weird to me. That I'm not for. Having a day dedicated to presidents, I'm not saying that's. I'm not saying necessarily against that. But I think that I think for me it's more of the idolization as the worship that I have an issue with, because there's nothing wrong with remembering leaders like we study and we remember Chairman Mao and Hitler. We don't honor them in any way, but we still remember them, and they're still you still have days that are for. I'm not saying for them, but you still have there's still a education, and there's still places dedicated to them, because so I that's where I would say the difference is for me.
Okay.
And I think I said that in the video 3 years ago when we talked about this. But yeah, I get and you see that right now with Biden. It's like the same happened with Trump. I mean, they're both the same thing. They both now that Biden's in office, there's calls. He's he's the greatest president of all time. That's it, man. He's in there for a month, the greatest president of all time.
That's right.
Donald Trump was the greatest president of all time in some people's eyes. But yeah, that to me just weird.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about, is the fact that during campaigns and the re-elections, you see people with the MAGA hats, and now you see the Biden-Harris masks and the flags and the TV ads and all of that stuff, and it's just so icky. And I don't understand why people can't see that. Maybe they're just so blind, and this is how the system works. We're all just kind of, I don't know. This is just the way things are. We're supposed to, worship these people more or less. But because they have created such a religious ceremony around elections and around choosing your candidate, and how you think this candidate came from nothing. His dad was a mailman, and his family worked in the coal mines, or they knit together this elaborate story of how he's just like you and me, even though that we have one 152 millionth of a chance of ever affecting any kind of say on what he does. And this really only matters if you live in a swing state. But the way that they craft this message and the campaigns and all the propaganda that goes into it, they elevate these people above the Pope. They elevate these people at the same level with the church, and the pictures of God and all that, like the Jacobin magazine, literally had Biden looking like Jesus with angels around him. You had St. Fauci up there. You had Hillary and Bush and Obama looking down on him as angels. That stuff is just weird. It's weird. Why can't you say it's weird? The same thing when the pictures that people put out of Trump and Jesus moving his hand on executive orders on documents, that's weird. That shouldn't be. Like, why can't you say this isn't okay? This is kind of gross. It's sick. It's idolatry. It's wrong. But it's perfectly okay because this is politics. This is how we organize society. We have to effectively choose one of these, 20 people every 4 years to effectively rule over the other side of people that we hate. So these people by proxy are our chosen dictators to stick it to the other people that we don't like. That to me is not a healthy society. That to me doesn't make any sense. That literally doesn't make any sense. The fact that you need a national leader who is in charge of the most powerful government to ever exist on Earth. You need someone like a Donald Trump or a Hillary or a Biden or a Clinton or whoever to, stick it to the other people that you don't like. Why? That doesn't make any sense.
You gotta own the libs, Joe.
You gotta own the libs. You gotta cuck the conservatives or whatever.
It's true.
But yeah, so I want to, shifting gears a little bit, I want to read to you something, Jacob. So
please do.
So our favorite investor into the show, our favorite software developer and engineer, Bill Gates.
Oh yeah, we love Bill Gates.
Love Bill Gates.
Good. Bill Gates is awesome.
We're not saying this because we don't want to get canceled or thrown in. We don't want to get chipped or anything.
I own that Microsoft stock, so full disclosure.
So Bill Gates is on a new mission. It seems like this guy never stops with the old ones. But anyway, so Billy Gates, I guess, is out with a new book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. This man is just full of good ideas. He's just this man deserves all our praise. To avoid a climate disaster, we need to eliminate emissions from the ways we create electricity, grow food, make things, move around, and heat and cool our buildings. It won't be easy, but I believe we can do it. This book is about what it will take. Thank you, Bill Gates. Thank you for finally taking the most pressing issue in our lifetime, climate change. Thank you. I thought it was racism, but I guess racism is out because Donnie's out of the White House, whatever. We got Greta Thunberg going around the world lecturing the big CEOs and everyone about how you've stolen my future. Thank you. Thank you, John Kerry, for flying around on your private jet, because that's the only way you could get around on your private jet, globe-trotting the world, telling others about how you can't have a car, you can't have red meat, but it's okay for you to travel the world in a private jet.
He just can't be inconvenienced, Joe.
Let me say that again. It's okay for you to travel around the world crying and moaning and itching about climate change while you're flying around in a private jet. Let me say it again. Flying around the world in a private jet. Now,
but it's a
hang
nice
on.
private jet.
Oh, I'm sure it's beautiful. Like, have you seen Tom Brady's new private jet? It's gorgeous.
It's very, very nice.
It's gorgeous. The fact that John Kerry will emit more emissions flying through his private jet and his, caravan of Subarus, when he goes to these major climate change events, he will emit more emissions than any American alive today. Your average American. So it's the peak of hypocrisy. And it's interesting to see that Bill Gates is now the largest owner of farmland in America, which it's interesting.
What you doing all that farmland there, boy?
Build back better. So there's that. And another thing I wanted to mention, Jacob, I know your favorite epidemiologist, your favorite doctor, your favorite guy when it comes to COVID.
Dr. John Anitas?
No. If my computer would work. Dr. Fauci. Your favorite, our Lord and Savior. He wins $1 million for defending science.
Man, you know what was awesome about? You know what? I saw that headline too, and I really appreciate Dr. Fauci. He defended science the whole way. The way that he said you shouldn't wear a mask in March, and then April said you should, and he said that, there's no evidence to suggest that it'll help in the middle of a pandemic because you fiddle with it. And then not even a month later, he's like, you know what? Everybody should mask up, and the science is settled. You know what? That's awesome. I think that I still, he still hasn't revealed the evidence, but I mean, who are we to question this man? I think that he is a wonderful person. $1 million, you know what? Give him $1 trillion.
That's not enough.
It's not enough.
Dr. Anthony Fauci has won the $1 million Dan David Prize for defending science and advocating for vaccines now being administered worldwide to fight the coronavirus pandemic. The Israel-based Dan David Foundation on Monday named President Joe Biden's chief medical advisor as the winner of these 3 prizes. It said that he had earned the recognition over a lifetime leadership of HIV research and AIDS relief, as well as his advocacy for the vaccines against COVID-19.
That's beautiful.
In its statement, the private foundation did not mention former President Donald Trump, who undermined Fauci's follow-the-science approach to the pandemic, but it credited Fauci with courageously defending science in the face of unformed opposition during the challenging COVID crisis. I thank God every morning that we have strong men of conviction like Anthony Fauci, who does not wait to take a stance on anything until it becomes a meme.
Or every single publication has already reported on it.
Yeah, where would we be? I guess the whole country would literally look like Florida right now if we didn't have Anthony Fauci. It looked
like Florida. The way that
every state would do as well as New York State did.
Well, I mean, he did praise Andrew Cuomo and New York as being the shining example of how to approach this. But I really loved his scientific approach between double masking, right? He said that, well, of course, it makes sense, more material, it makes sense. And then he says, well, there's really no evidence to suggest it. And then he says, well, the science has said double masking is twice as effective. And if they were already effective and twice as much, that's 80%. And so if you wear 4 masks, that means that's 150% chance of not catching it. So it's very, very strange math. I don't know how you get that one. Yeah, he's a brilliant guy. He's been right about everything he's been right about. Whenever he said that Florida's asking for trouble, they're asking for trouble by opening up, they're asking for trouble, this could be bad, and nothing happened. And he recently came out and said that he was scared to work in the Trump White House because he felt that it was one big super spreader.
Oh gosh!
I was like, oh man, you courageous little soul having to work over there. But man, God bless him. I think that he is a national treasure. You know what? We should erect another little Mount Rushmore spot with Dr. Fauci and his little stethoscope.
Absolutely.
Around there on his head.
I think in every hospital, in every treatment center, every minute clinic, every doc in the box, there should be a picture on the wall of Dr. Anthony Fauci with a little halo above his head. And little,
but make it the photo of him.
Stop it! Don't ruin this mood. And beneath the glorious gold-plated frame, there should be a little box where you can slip donations in for COVID vaccines.
A little candle.
And we should light candles like we do at Catholic churches. Light candles and pray to our patron saint of vaccines, Dr. Anthony Fauci. And then right next to it, we should also put another mural, another gold-plated frame of our new Lord and Savior, Dr. Bill Gates, for his great work on vaccines. And again, candles and a little donation box, for him. So
not a cult at all.
It's not a cult, folks.
Not a cult.
Not at all.
Nope, not a cult at all. Whenever we say this, no, and we're not being. This is no sarcasm either. We are not being sarcastic.
100% truthful.
This
speaking
is completely
from the heart.
real. I've never been more genuine about anything more in my life than I am right now.
That's right.
Beautiful. Speaking of Andrew Cuomo, Miriam Cuomo, he's our favorite punching bag of this entire thing. Maybe because of the fact that we've been, right about this for almost a year now. The Washington Post there's an opinion piece out right now. I will link it down below, but I can't see it because I don't subscribe to the Washington Post. It's bad if I'm already subscribed to one cancerous newspaper. I don't have to do the other one. But it says if Andrew Cuomo doesn't resign, he should be removed from office. The Guardian headline says Cuomo faces calls to resign amid allegations of hiding nursing home COVID deaths. So the cathedral is beginning to turn on him a little bit. I think that he was the darling, and you're not gonna let these people sidestep this one. I mean, he was praised. The man won an Emmy for this press conferences. And Biden came out and said, well, Andrew Cuomo's out there informing the public every single day, informing the public. Well, he didn't inform the public about, how many folks died in nursing homes. But, to quote him, if they died in a nursing home or in a hospital, who cares? They died.
If he dies, he dies.
He dies. And then now Cuomo came out and I finally addressed it and said that he apologizes and saying, I will accept responsibility for not letting people know that I did anything wrong.
Cuomo got
when
Cuomo.
it comes to stuff like this, I retweeted the little thing you can see on my Twitter at @JSanders_. You can see whenever he said, whenever he was brought up when this was brought up. Look, I have the utmost contempt for these people. Tar and feathering, but is that enough? Governors to Gitmo is still, it's a meme. I understand that, but I mean, obviously it's never going to happen. But it's one of those things where that's what, like, people have gone to. I say this and it's a broken record, but people have gone to Gitmo for far, far less. Willingly keeping this information away from the public in a way just so they avoid a federal investigation. And then you have the Washington Post coming out and saying that if he doesn't resign, he should be impeached. There's now 7, I believe, Democratic state senators who are now coming out and saying that we need to recall and impeach Cuomo about this. You already have Newsom in California. He's going to face a recall vote. I think it's all but confirmed at this point. I mean, it's coming down on these people, and rightfully so. And nothing's going to happen. Like, Andrew Cuomo's not going to spend a day in jail because of all this. Nothing's going to happen like that.
He'll go into exile. He may be pushed out of office. More likely, he might resign, or he just won't win re-election. But he's not going to face a day in jail. He will gracefully bow out and spend the rest of his days at Martha's Vineyard with all his, rich billionaire and millionaire friends, brunching it up with Anthony Fauci, more than likely, with his brother, the other
Chris Cuomo.
Yeah, whatever, Cuomo.
Christopher.
So he won't face any retribution, any judgment. No judgment will be cast down on this man for the evils that he inflicted on his own people of his own state. And that's largely the reason why, if that doesn't red pill people, the fact that this guy literally sent tens of thousands of people to their deaths because it looks like he didn't want to give Trump a political win by sending in the cruise ships. If that doesn't red pill people that this is the way things really work, this is how much he cares about the people in your state, then I don't know what will. The fact that they can do this and face no consequences for it, like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Obama and Bush are never gonna go to jail for anything, right?
Not only that, but looking at this and looking at what they've done, why in the heck would you ever put these people in charge of your healthcare or in charge of anything? Right?
Why do we need presidents?
No, but think about this.
Governors.
Think about this. If the man who is heralded as this fantastic leader who is honest and bold and comes out there and presents
wrote
the truth,
book on how to respond to COVID.
But look. If the man who they herald as the best and is a shining example of a governor, and governors like Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis are railed, could you imagine if this happened to any red state governor? Oh my gosh, would they be impeached and dragged through the streets by the mainstream media? I mean,
they probably set up a guillotine.
No, I had to find Andrew Cuomo resign. If you type it into any of these websites, you don't find. The Wall Street Journal doesn't report on this. The New York Times doesn't report on this. I had to type it into Google to actually find anything resembling any sort of actions of impeachment, recall, or to resign. Like these places, they're not writing, they're not talking about. They're trying to put this underneath the rug and just have everyone forget about it. Now seeing what's happened, and now seeing they've covered this up solely for political gains. There's no other reason why they would have this besides political reasons. Why in the heck would you want these people in charge of any part of your life ever? It doesn't matter what it is, any part of your life. Why? If they can't, look, I am no scientist, I am no doctor. But back in February and back in March, when I heard that they were putting COVID-positive patients in with nursing home patients, I said, what are you doing? Why?
What?
I am not a healthcare administration professional. I'm not a nurse. I'm nothing like that. But I know that is a bad move. And if this man can't see that, why would you want him in charge of your healthcare?
You're no Gaylord Fokker.
Why would you want this man in charge of your healthcare? Right? This man would have been in charge of your healthcare, and the people who work at the DMV would be the clerks who would manage the day-to-day operations of your healthcare. Why would you want these idiots in charge of your healthcare? Or in charge of any aspect of your life? Education, building roads, defense. The man can't defend elderly patients from a virus. So why would you want them to protect your home, your life, liberty, and your property? It baffles me that people cannot make that connection. They're like, well, Cuomo, what he did was bad, but like we should still force that Medicare for all. And Cuomo, it was probably in poor judgment, but we gotta have a bigger defense budget. No, it's stupid. Like there's no reason for this man to be in charge. In fact, where this man should be right now is he shouldn't be making these press conferences. He should be in a cell at Gitmo or some other prison somewhere, or he should be tarred and feathered and paraded through the streets.
Speaking
like he did back in the old days.
Speaking of government-run healthcare and people like Miriam Cuomo and others, I think the people in the UK are soon going to figure out what that's all about. So I think I sent this to you yesterday. About how there's a lot of fury at do not resuscitate notices given to COVID patients with learning disabilities. So this is kind of a bombshell.
Who actually reported on this?
The Guardian.
The Guardian, okay.
So that's a pretty major.
It's a pretty major publication.
And The Hill picked it up, and there's been a lot of others people have picked it up. So if this is true, what the MenCap charity is saying is that people with learning disabilities have been given do not resuscitate orders during the second wave of the pandemic, in spite of widespread condemnation of the practice last year and an urgent investigation by the Care Watchdog. MenCap said it had received reports in January from people with learning disabilities that they had been told they would not be resuscitated if they were taken ill by COVID-19. So, remember, what was the kid's name that had some kind of brain injury or some kind of brain deformity when he was born in the UK, that the state had just decided that they weren't going to do anything?
He had some rare form of brain cancer that there was no known treatment for.
Right.
And they weren't going to offer him any experimental. They weren't going to offer him any stay in a hospital. He's basically just sentenced to die at home. They weren't going to treat him.
The state had decided that his life was invaluable, that it wasn't worth the resources and the time to look at all the options.
Duncan? Was his last name Duncan?
I can't remember.
I'll find it real quick.
But the state had just, through a legit death court, had decided that this kid, wasn't worth it. And that's exactly what you get with the socialized, centrally planned healthcare. People with learning disabilities, well, they're a net drag on society. That's what they are. In the article, it points out that they are, I think it's like 30 times more likely to die of COVID than people of the same age that do not have learning disabilities. So this is essentially the state deciding whose life matters and whose doesn't. Now, if you have a brother, sister, loved one, whomever, that has a learning disability and you live in these areas in the UK and they came down with the germ, they could have died and the state would have let them die because their life was deemed unneeded. And it's the same thing that happened with that kid in the UK. Because he was born with some kind of very rare, incurable, untreatable disease.
Charlie Gard is his name, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. They just decided, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. You're no longer valuable to the state, in the eyes of the state. So, die. And what's interesting about that case with the Charlie Gard case, the state in the hospital would not allow his family to see him. They wouldn't allow his family into the room with him. They wouldn't allow him to take him home where he could die with his family. They decided that he was going to die alone, surrounded by people he didn't know. That's what the state thinks about you. That's how they treat people with uncurable diseases. And what's also interesting is that, everyone says about how American healthcare is so expensive and everything, all that. Do you know how long it takes people to get a simple X-ray or MRI scan in Canada? It takes freaking forever. There are numerous dictators and other foreign leaders that come to the United States because the healthcare here is better than in their own country where they have single payer, where they have government-run healthcare.
Well, and it also goes to show that if you're elderly, right, one of the most common elderly procedures that's really not life-threatening, but it's more of a benefit on your life is like a knee or a hip replacement, something like that. In many of these single-payer nations, you will wait years for a spot to get one of these surgeries. Why? Because, if you're in your 70s or 80s, you're a net drag on society. Most of the time you are. That's just based on the demographics, because most people are retired. They rely on other people for their help. So why would they spend the resources for you to get a knee replacement whenever statistically you don't have that much longer to live? And I find that fascinating with the argument about single payer for this whole COVID crisis. When it comes to, if you look at any other nation that has these Medicare for all or sort of single payer systems, the elderly and the terminally ill are always thrown to the wayside. Why? Because they're a net negative. Whenever you look at managing resources that are scarce, why would you pour resources into someone like you had a terminally ill child? Why would you dump a couple $1 million into helping them, knowing that chances of them surviving are still going to be zero? Or if you're 90 years old and you need a hip replacement, well, why are you going to pay for them to get a hip replacement? They're going to be dead within probably this year. So with the example of a COVID vaccine, just think about this for a COVID vaccine. If you had a single payer system and you only had 100 million COVID vaccines to go around, let's just say that was, who's getting those COVID vaccines if there's a scarcity of resources and this thing as apocalyptic as possible? Do you think it's the elderly who are going to statistically pass away in the next less than 10 years? Or is it going to be the young and the healthy who contribute to society, who pay taxes? Who do you think is getting that shot? That's why I think a single payer is the worst argument in a time of a pandemic, because guess who gets the treatment if there's actually a real apocalyptic virus that was killing 20-30% of people who get it? Guess who's getting treatment? It's the young. It's the ones who work. It's not going to be the elderly. If you're above the median life expectancy in this country, you're going to get thrown away so fast. Or if you're 12 years old and has stage 4 brain cancer or whatever, they're not going to give you COVID treatment or virus treatment. Are you kidding me?
There's also another scandal now with the people with learning disabilities in the UK that they're not getting vaccinated either. They're not given the option to get vaccinated because, again, they are 20 or 30 times more likely to die from the germ than people of their same age who do not have learning disabilities. So, to me, again, they're simply deciding because, there's not enough resources to go around, we're going to pick and choose who lives and who dies.
That's always the young and the healthy.
It's essentially what's going on here. Now, I'm not saying that that only people with learning disabilities or old folk should be getting the vaccine. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want the vaccine, you should be able to get the vaccine. If you got to pay for it, if the government makes it free, whatever. I don't think there should be any racial guidelines on the distribution of the vaccine like the CDC came out with a couple months ago. I don't think they should be deciding on oh well, you have a learning disability, you don't get the vaccine. That's, to me, that's creepy as all get out. That should not be a thing.
Yeah.
So you got anything else,
That's
brother?
all I had. Typically, to wrap up what I want to say, is typically I end the show with some kind of garbage that I find on Twitter. And trust me, there's a lot of trash out
Plenty
there.
of it.
But for this moment in Twitter, I want to actually put on something really awesome. I've seen several of these videos, and to me, they're all awesome. They're all amazing. They white pill me so much on looking positive to the future. And that is a lot of these gym owners. Most of them post either at TikTok, which I despise, but they post these videos, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, and usually it's them telling their story about how they were able to fight off of whatever government there was. So there's this one gym owner who said that he got sued by Andrew Cuomo, and then so won his case, and then the health department came and the police came and they told him to shut things down, and he said basically gave them the finger and, said, do something with it, and told him to go away. And then he ended up suing the government and ended up winning his case. But it's amazing. There's so many of these fantastic videos of gym owners. And look, if you're a scrawny pencil, paper pushing, office worker of some of these health departments who are going to go and intimidate these gym, do you think you're going to go to a gym and intimidate a lot of these guys who all they do all day is just pump iron and are like the human gorillas? They're huge and massive. Do you think you're gonna go and just say, oh well, this paper says you guys got to close, so follow me, listen to me? No, what I've seen some of these videos that they do is that they build a wall in front of the door.
Build the wall.
So they build a wall of just bodybuilders and people who work at these gyms, and they force out all these health inspection people, which, gosh, if you're a health inspector or you work for a health department and you're shutting these businesses down, knowing good and well that that's your paycheck is not going anywhere, wow, you're a bad person. And I have no issue saying that. Same thing with the police in this example. They say, oh well, I gotta get paid, or oh well, my family. In any other circumstance, does that make it okay, right? I work in the service industry, right? If my boss told me, well, we're going to cut on quality standards for our food because I said so, and possibly someone could get sick and die, am I going to stand there and be like, well, I got to get paid somehow, even though someone could possibly get sick and could die because of actions of management? No, heck no. I'm out of there.
We're serving food that was literally run through the sewer. Well, got to get paid.
Well, I got to get paid somehow. You work for health department. Well, I got to close this guy's business down. He could lose everything and could commit suicide based on him losing everything. Well, I got to get paid. I got to think about my family. What about this guy's family? Come on. You don't have cognitive dissonance to figure this out.
What about the mental health of all the people that patronize his gym?
No, I think these gym videos are awesome. I try to share them every time I get a chance. Most of these gyms are comedically funny with the way that they approach them. They say that they're not operating because they stop charging their memberships, so they just have a big donation box. And of course, people just put whatever money they've paid monthly. So if it's like $40 a month to go to the gym, they just put that in once a month as in this donation box. They said, "Oh no, we're not charging. We're not operating a business. We're just the doors are open 24/7 or whatever. We're just here. People come and go as they want. We're not operating business. Oh no, we're not charging money for our services. All we ask is that people just donate if they want to." That to me is awesome. I know there's many of these gym owners who have locked themselves inside of it, armed themselves. I think that's awesome as well. Some more stuff like this needs to come out. I think that a lot of black pilled people, and even people who are blue pilled, who think that there should be lockdowns, watch some of these videos and just just see the light and see the error of their ways, because gyms don't operate on very high margins. They're not, the gym owners are not driving 3 or 4, some Bentleys, and they're not buying Rolexes every weekend. No, they're some of them are barely making a buy before COVID. So whenever you tell them to shut down forever,
but I think
good luck building up that relationship with clients after being closed down for that long.
But I think for many of them, if this continues, it's going to be about as hard to get a reservation as it is at Henryhausen's.
Henryhausen's? Is it possible to get a reservation?
Not
there?
for Googly Bear. I don't have anything else. Yeah, I think that's great. Stick it to the man, stick it to the mun.
And he's in New York too, so I mean,
yeah.
Gosh. You see a lot of these gyms in New York, and there's the one famous one that's been all over Fox News is on New Jersey. There's also that one brewery, I think, in New York that was on. It was on some show, but it was one of those shows where the host was like super corporate, just maybe like Harrison Faulkner or whatever.
I think it was like Martha McCallum. I think it was
something like that. One of those just shills of just it's no personality, just reads a teleprompter. And then he took the cease and desist. I know it was either that or it was either the cease and desist, the eviction, or it was the fine. It was like a $40,000 fine. I can't remember what it was. And he tore it up on screen and threw it away. Like on Fox News, I was watching it. It just happened to be on, and then he tears it up and then throws it away. It's just that's awesome. There's no legal basis for this, and I think that if they challenge this in court, they're gonna end up winning. So
good for them. I don't have anything else to say other than the fact that
you can follow us on Twitter.
Gosh, man, why do you have to interrupt me every single time? Yes, follow us on the Tweety, share the show, like the show. I don't know.
The one thing I haven't mentioned recently is since we're on Apple, there's no way to rate on Spotify, but if you're listening on Apple Music, the best way to kind of get us out there and get us promoted is obviously share with your friends and post us on social media, but also to shoot us a kind review
and a 5-star.
If you enjoy if you listen and you enjoy the show, hit that 5-star review. It's only going to help us out. It takes literally 2 seconds and it helps us out so much. Write a kind comment. I think that's something I know I forget to mention, but if you're listening on Apple, just shoot us a kind review, and maybe if I get enough of them, I'll start reading them on the air or something like that.
That's a great idea.
Twitter, the J Standards, join the adventure, Jerk Standards on the Tweeties. It's a wonderful experience. Come have fun.
That's right. You can follow me at Joe Stanberg on the Tweety as well. It's not an adventure. It's just me, my daily or hourly or whatever it happens to be. Just manic depressive, just ranting and ravings on everything that is wrong in our society. I'm just kidding. I just post like maybe one thing a day. Anyway, if you got questions, comments, concerns, we're doing another AMA here coming up soon. The show email is Standing Brothers Show
Standing Brothers
Show.
Standing Brothers
Show at gmail.com. Send us all your questions, comments, concerns, inquiries, whatever it may be.
Once we get closer to that day, I'll actually post an official thing on Twitter and on my Instagram and other social media sites. Right. For those who are listening, I am kind of off Facebook right now. Facebook's only used for posting each episode of the show. So if you want to get a hold of me, email or DM on Twitter is the best way to do it. I'm not really on Facebook anymore.
Don't be a stranger. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah.
We don't bite
too hard.
So if you got questions, please don't be afraid to ask. Other than that, we'll see you use Beautiful Peoples on Fridays. Until then, be good. Peace.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, point. Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.